In the last video, I showed you how to get set up with your environment, get all of your auto formatting set up, as well as how to run your very first program. And now in this section of the course, we're going to be talking all about variables, everything you need to know about getting started with creating variables and all the different types associated with these variables. But what exactly is a variable? I personally think the easiest way to realize and think about variables is to think about them in a little bit more of a metaphorical sense. Imagine a variable is like a box, and a box can have anything you want inside of it. So let's say that you have this box and you maybe put a note inside of that box, a note that says, your grocery list on it, for example. So you take that note, you put it inside the box, and you close up the box. So now you have this box. You can even put a name on the box. For example, you label the box as grocery list on the side of the box. So now you have a box that contains your grocery list inside of it, and you labeled the side of that box to say grocery list. So now what you can do is you can take that box, you can go give it to anyone that you want, you can pass it around, you can take it with you to the grocery store, you can do anything you want with that box, and whenever you open that box up and look inside of it, the thing inside of it is that grocery list. So a variable is essentially a way in programming for you to store some type of information, in our case this grocery list, and we can give it any name that we want. So we gave our box a name of grocery list, and inside of that box named grocery list, we put the actual grocery list itself. So all we did was create a container to put some type of value inside of it, and we were able to really nicely name that container in order for us to easily know what's inside that box. Because if you have 100 different boxes, how are you going to know which one contains your grocery list? Well, obviously the one that says grocery list on the side of it. So let me show you how to actually create a variable or box inside of JavaScript. The first thing we need to do is tell JavaScript that we're trying to create some type of box, container, or variable. And in order to do that, we just use the keyword let. This let keyword essentially says, I want to create a variable. So we type in let, and then we click space. And an important thing to note is you need to make sure that let is all lowercase. You can't have a capital L in here or a random capital E. That's not going to work. It has to be all lowercase. So we have our keyword let, which says I'm creating a variable. Then we need to give it a name. This is like the name you write on the side of the box. So in our case, let's say that we want to name this favorite number. And something important to note is that this needs to be all one word. You can't have favorite space number. That's not going to work. It has to be one word. And commonly what you'll see inside of JavaScript is when you name out variables that are multiple words like this, you start the first word lowercase, and then every other word starts out with an uppercase letter. So if we had favorite number 2, for example, you would just make sure to capitalize the beginning of every word after the first one. That's just common practice in JavaScript, and you'll see that all over the place. So we have our keyword let saying I'm creating a variable, then we have the name of our variable, then the next thing we need to do is put an equal sign. And this is essentially saying what do we want to go inside of our variable? What do we want to put in our box? So let's just put your favorite number. In my case, my favorite number is 3, so I'm just going to put a 3 here. If your favorite number was like 3,000, you can't put a comma here. It just has to be all one word, no commas. So in here, let's put 3, for example. I'd recommend choosing a number between 1 and 10. It'll just be easier. So we'll just put 3 inside of here for our favorite number. And now we can use that console.log in order to print out our favorite number. So before we would put inside of here, hello world, like this. But what we want to do instead of saying hello world is we want to actually print out that number. So we can just put our variable favorite number inside of here, just like that. So we created our box, our variable, by saying let, and then we named it favorite number, and we gave it a specific value on the other side of this equal sign. And then all we're doing is logging out that number. And if I save that and run that, you can say node script.js, you can see it prints out the value 3. It doesn't print out the text favorite number, it prints out that 3, which is the favorite number that we set to the variable 2. So something important to note, in code, whenever you access a variable by its name, you're essentially just getting the value. It'd be the exact same thing as if we wrote console.log 3 here instead. If I run this, we get the exact same output. But the nice thing is that we have this one single container with a really nice name that we can use everywhere in our code instead of just in one place, which is why you always see variables. Another really nice thing about variables is you can actually change them. Let's say that, my favorite number is no longer 3, my favorite number is now 4. So what we've done is we've set our favorite number up here to 3, and then what I'm doing is I'm putting the name of our variable, which right here is favorite number, because I want to update the value of this variable. So I don't need to create a new box. What let does is it creates a new variable or a new box. but I already have my variable favorite number, so I don't need to create a new one. So I don't need that let keyword, but I do want to change the value. So I put my actual variable name, put the equal sign, and then I put my new value for that variable. And now if I save this and I run it down here, you'll see 4 gets printed out because I updated the value of my favorite number to 4. And now something that's really important to notice is programs run from the very top to the very bottom. So if I take this favorite number equals 4 and I move it down here below the log. So if I just have this where we log out our favorite number, and then we're changing our favorite number to equal 4, and then we're logging out our favorite number again. If I save this and run it, you'll notice we get 3 and then 4 being printed out. And that's because this first log, our variable favorite number, is equal to 3. And then after we do this first log, we come down here, we set our favorite number to 4, and we log it out again. So we're printing 3, and then we're printing 4 down here. And again, the reason why this is occurring is because we're running our programs from the very top all the way down to the bottom, line by line by line. Each line is going to execute one by one. So doing this line, then this line, then this line, and then finally our very bottom line. So now I want you to do a little bit of an exercise. Let's just get rid of all this code. I want you to create 3 different variables called A, B, and C. And I want you to set A equal to the value 1, B equal to the value 2, and then C equal to the value 3. So create 3 different variables with the name A, B, and C, and set them to the values 1, 2, and 3, and then use console.log to log them out. I'm going to let you do that on your own. Just pause the video right here and try it out, and I'll show you how to do it afterwards. Okay, so hopefully you've taken the time to actually try to do this yourself. And in order to create these variables, you remember we have that let keyword, so we say let, then the name, in our case A, equals, and then the value, which in our case is 1. Do the exact same thing for B, which we're setting to 2, and the exact same thing for C, which we set to 3. Then we use console log to print out A. Going to do the exact same thing to print out B. And then finally, the exact same thing to print out C. And if we run this, we should get 1, 2, 3 being printed out. And that's exactly what we want. Now, once you have all this done, what I want you to do is take it a step further. And after these console logs, I want you to change the value of A to be equal to 3 and then log A out again. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video to try that out. So here's exactly what it would look like. We just say A is going to be equal to 3. Because we remember we don't need to put let at the beginning because we already have A defined as a variable. So now we can just console log A, and we should get 1, 2, 3, and then 3 being printed out for our A that we just put on there. And that looks like it's working as expected. Now the very last thing that I want to show you related to variables is that you can set variables to other variables. So let's just go back here a little ways where we have A, B, and C. And now let's say I want to create a variable called D, and I want D to be equal to the exact same thing as A. So I could just say 1 here, but what if A changes? Let's just say that we have a bunch of code inside of here, spans multiple lines all over the place. We have all this code, so who knows if A is still equal to 1 when we decide to create D? We don't. So what we can do instead is we can just set this to the variable A, like this. So instead of setting it to a specific value, for example, 1, 2, or 3, we can say we wanted to set it to whatever value is inside of this variable. So now we're just saying D is going to be equal to whatever A is. And if we console.log out D, and we also print out A up here as well. So we have 1 log for A, 1 log for D. They should both print out 1. And if we run this, you'll see we get 1 printed both times. And if we change A to be 5, for example, it's going to print out 5 both times. And we can even say A is equal to 3 here. So we're first setting it to 5, then we're setting it to 3, and then we're setting D to whatever A currently is, which in our case is 3. So now when we print down here, we get 3 being printed out. The important thing to remember is just to make sure that you have the correct syntax, essentially the correct characters and letters in the right places. So when you define a new variable, it must start with let at the beginning, and then make sure that you put the variable name, the equal sign, and then the value of that variable. And whenever you update an existing variable to a new value, you make sure you don't put let, just put the name of the variable, the equal sign, and then the value of that variable. Now this may seem a little bit confusing at first, but creating and setting variables is something we're going to do all throughout this entire course, and it's going to become a habit that is easy for you as we get continuing in this course. In the next video, I'm going to show you everything there is to do with this number type inside of variables and what exactly types even are. I can't wait to see you in that video.